This music wasn't this good? This good. Yeah. I'm all over that music. I'm not from South Carolina, and I'm not from Georgia either. And but we like both of you. Um, if you go up the mountain, up 25, and you hit into North Carolina, and then you go through Asheville, don't stop in Asheville, just keep going, and then you go on over the mountain, you can begin to hunt ginseng in there. And, well, you all are really out of it if you don't know what sing is. Now, they ain't got time to talk about that. But anyhow, if you're going on over the mountain into Irwin, and then Johnson City, between Johnson City and Kingsport, is a little area just called Midway out in the country where I'm from. And my daddy was from Rogersville, which is on beyond Kingsport down in Hawkins County. And Dad's my hero. I don't know, I realize not everybody has had the opportunity of having a father that they could call their hero. I get that, believe me, I really do. But what you want me to do with it? Down just a little bit? Is that better? But my daddy's my hero, and Daddy was an old guy. He was a little guy, and about 5'4", 5'5", weighed about 130 pounds. And during the Second World War, he was the ball turret gunner in a B-17. That's that bottom thing where he crawls down in there, and if the landing gear messes up, you're probably dead. And about half his time was spent there, and the other half was spent in the tail of that thing. And he and his crew went 35 missions over Germany. And they were shot down twice. And somehow both times managed to get back. And Daddy never talked about that much. Daddy died in 97. I still miss him. People used to ask Daddy, said, Bill, where are you from? Daddy was educated. He had gone to the first grade 4 times. And at a place called Caney Creek School. Now, I ain't got time to tell you about that. But anyhow, he went to school there. And people had asked Daddy where he's from, you know. And he would tell them that he said, well, we live so far back, you have to go toward town to hunt. Well, most people he worked with in the engineering field didn't get that. You know, and so they'd say, but Bill, what do you mean by that? He said, well, let me put it this way. Grand Ole Opry come on Saturday. We live so far back, we didn't get it to Monday. I mean, you know, that he just... We had, you know, bluegrass was what we grew up with. And there's a lot of worship wars going on now in churches between traditional and contemporary. But Southern gospel was considered liberal where I'm from. And if you went in a church and Southern gospel was taking place, you ran out of it. Because it was probably a First Baptist of somebody's, you know. I mean, really. Because if bluegrass wasn't taking place and you didn't go to church. And I get that. Do y'all know I saw the light? Yeah, we have to do that in a minute, if you don't mind. Because I ain't going to leave here without that. And but anyhow, I just had a little word with him. But I just, you know, my daddy was really important to me. And through the years, and Daddy was the guy who began to teach me some things about hunting and fishing. And the first gun he got me was a little 410 double barrel. And, you know, and I went and shot things that you weren't supposed to kill and things like that. And like a neighbor's flower pot. I'm just feeling it out, you know. And then a guy came around from another farm, came over to where we was. Somehow that shot was going through the trees over where his cows were, and that caused a little problem. But we had a, you know, it was that kind of thing, just growing up, learning what to do with it and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed it. But we would go bird hunting sometimes. Now, that's back when there was birds around here. But now you can't bird hunt. I mean, you just got to go to some plantation kind of thing where they make them drink whatever it is they drink because they're drunk when they come out. When they fly up, they ain't got no speed or nothing, you know. And, we had this guy. I was pastoring down in Gainesville, Georgia, and we had this guy, Lenny Moniz was his name, and I thought he was a mafia guy because he was raised in Miami and he looked like it, and he might have been, but he built the Olympic Stadium down there in Atlanta. I mean, big construction guy, real wealthy dude. And so he said to me, he started coming to church, did not know the Lord, okay? Didn't know the Lord at all. Because I remember I bought him a Bible for Christmas. And Lenny lived in about a $10 million home, all concrete and 6 stories out on Lake Lanier. And I just remember this guy. He came because his wife had breast cancer. And they started coming to church near us. After about 6 months, Lenny came. He said, "You ever do any hunting?" I said, "Well, I used to a little bit. I came back from Vietnam. And about 20 years after Vietnam, I went deer hunting one time, and I had a .223 a guy loaned me and killed 3 deer with 3 shots. And I said, this ain't no fun. I'm done. And I don't want to do this no more. But the bird hunting, that kind of appealed to me. And I thought, Daddy'd be proud of me. And so he said, well, look, be over at the church early the next morning or whatever it was, and I'll pick you up. I said, okay. Well, he didn't tell me what he was going to pick me up in, so I'm out there in the parking lot next to my truck, sitting on the back of the truck, just kind of drinking my tea and eating my biscuit, and this chopper comes in. And I thought, well, I reckon it could be the Highway Patrol. I covered my license plate up, and so he couldn't see it, And it wasn't the Highway Patrol. It was Lenny. I mean, he said he was going to pick me up, but Lord, I didn't know it was a helicopter. I said, well, where are we going? He said, hop in. And I'm kind of like pork chop. I said, which 2 seat belts you want me to use? They don't have no double wide seats in those things. In Vietnam, I was a lot smaller. And so we got in that chopper and we went down, flew down near Social Circle, Georgia, which some of y'all might know where it's on 20, right off 20, about exit 98 or 99, somewhere in there. And just south of there's this plantation. And so we went down there, and people were milling around and getting ready to hunt, and the guide guy came up, and Lenny said he'd be back in a minute. And the guns were, and so here comes Lenny, and I thought, what's going on? He came in a golf cart, and I thought my daddy would not like this. Where the golf clubs was the guns, and the guy, the guide and his dogs went on out through there, and then Lenny and I rode the golf cart, and it just got worse and worse. And I said, "What are we doing?" I thought we was going bird hunting. He said, "Just hang on." So they went out there, and they had them birds put out there for us, And we rode up where that dog was on point. And then they sent that retriever in and flushed them. And we'd got out of the golf cart ready to shoot, and then them drunk birds come up. Of course, we killed all of them. I mean, anybody can hit something flying that slow. I mean, even me. I mean, I felt bad. I thought, no, Daddy would not like this. He would turn over in his grave and whoop me if he knew I was doing this. And so, that was and I thought about that, so I just thought, well, I ain't done much hunting since then. But I love to fish. I appreciate that right there, that little lure. That'll work over my hunting hole. They really will. And I love largemouth fishing because the daffodils are up now, and I can feel that tug just a tad. You know, we're doing the spinnerbait thing right now, but I'm so spoiled on them worms and a little crankbait once in a while. But I want that. I want to see that bass pick that sucker up and walk down through here and then jerk him out of the water. That's what I want to see. Y'all with me here? I mean, amen. We got that? Don't you tell me God don't appreciate things like this, because when he got men to help him, he got fishermen. So don't mess with me. I got this. And but the first time that I really started fishing, I had fished a little bit. Daddy had took me fishing some, but in 1959, that's before a lot of you were born. But in '59, Daddy, when I was 12, Daddy bought me my first own rod and reel. It was a Zebco 33. With me? Y'all with me? They still got them, I think, but they ain't made like they used to be. But anyhow, and so Daddy was building these two schools in Chilhowie and Rich Valley, Virginia. Now that's in Southwest Virginia, up on the North Fork of the Holston River. It's smallmouth country. And so what Daddy and I would do in the evenings is me and Mama would stay with him I'm only child. And I used to ask Mom and Dad how come I didn't have more kids, and they'd get in a truck and they'd go somewhere. So I don't know. I ain't got no brothers and sisters. They never would talk to me about that. But anyhow, we went, you know, and so me and Daddy was out there, and in the evenings, though, we would go out to the river and fish. We'd go on Boo Buchanan's place, and just a big old place where he had his cows and stuff, and then the river flowed right through this area. And what you could do is we fished with a jitterbug. And what you could do is you could throw it. The river was about as wide as it is to that corner over there, and you could throw that thing all the way across the river. And then you would start retrieving that jitterbug, and you know how they work across the water. Really good-looking things. And the water wasn't that deep. And you could watch the fish come off the bank and head toward the jitterbug. Now, I'm telling you, I'm getting excited just talking about it. I don't want to do what I did, though. But anyway, so one time, we were catching some little fish, but one time I got a hold of you get a hold of about a 4-pound smallmouth, you got a pretty good fish. And that's what this one was. And I got a hold of it, and this 12-year-old boy, when I saw it, was a big fish, because he smacked the hooey out of that thing. And I didn't reel it. I didn't do anything. I just grabbed it, and I turned this way. You with me so far? I put it on my shoulder, and I went up the bank. And that sucker came right on with me, you know. And then we had it right there, and Daddy was just laughing and laughing and laughing. And I said, Daddy, what's wrong? Well, I wet all over myself. I just got so excited. And I know y'all have never done anything like that, but I did. And I didn't used to do that, but as an old man, you do that more often. You could talk to some of y'all, you know. But that's kind of what happened. Let's face it, that's just the way it was. Y'all with me so far? I hadn't lost anybody, because I don't like to be too deep, and sometimes I get a little deep for people because I'm educated. I'm educated way beyond my intelligence, and sometimes it shows. So anyway, but here's the thing about my dad. Daddy was one of these men who did not go to church. And the only reason that I even came close to knowing God was because I had a grandmother who took me and my cousin to a little bitty mountain church. And Miss Stump, our Sunday school teacher, taught us about Jesus. See, Jesus says, follow me, I will make you fishers of men. Well, Miss Stump fished in a 5th grade pond. You with me? 5th grade, little boys, that she told about Jesus. Now, she wasn't just an ordinary lady. And one Sunday morning in this little Methodist church, and that was, I knew God was speaking to my heart about being a sinner. And I wasn't ashamed to go and tell that preacher, I want to be saved. Didn't scare me in the least. I mean, when God does something and you know it's Him, don't go the other way. Don't be like Jonah and run. Just sign up. You know? Now, that was back when you could get saved in the Methodist church. You know what I'm saying? And so, I'm sorry. There's some good Methodist churches coming along these days. And boys are getting saved out there. Some good stuff is happening. It really is. Up in Chapin, there's a good one. So I get that. So, but that was, back then, that wasn't necessarily going. And so I went home and told Mom and Daddy about that, and they told me to be careful. Now, I didn't start going to a Baptist church till I met a girl. That's right. Woo. And she was awful pretty. And, her dad told me that I couldn't date her unless I came to Sunday night church. Now, I really didn't care whether she was Baptist, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness. I didn't care what she was. I was going to go. And whatever they were doing, handle snakes, we had that at home. That old boy got bit in Kentucky the other day. I think I saw him that night, one of those nights. But I understand. Me and Max Ray used to watch the snake handlers down near where we lived. And until one of them snakes fell through the crack where we was, then we hadn't been back. But I dated that girl. I wanted to date that girl. And that's how I became Baptist. And low motive is better than no motive. So I signed up for that. And then so I went. And later on, God just used different things to get a hold of my heart. And I was civil engineer type. And I'd done surveying. And then the lottery came along. And that wasn't the one where you was going to win money. That was the one where they was going to put you in the military. And my number come up. Some of you older guys in here know what that was like. My number was 17. Well, Miss Whirl, Kate P. Whirl was her name. Her twin boys and I played baseball together. And Miss Whirl said, she saw me one day, she said, Ronnie, you better do something because your number is up and your letter's on the way. I said, what am I going to do, Miss Whirl? She said, I don't know, but you better do something. So I went home and I said, Daddy, what am I going to do? He said, you need to call your uncle. He was a Navy recruiter. And I said, all right, I'm going to do it because I'm going to get drafted and I do not want to go to Vietnam and get shot at. And so he said, fine, I'll call Uncle Bud. He's up. Bud was over in Tupelo, Mississippi. And he was the Navy recruiter. I said, Bud, what'd I do? He said, why don't you go up to Bristol? I got a buddy up there and he's going to help you. I said, okay. So I marched up there. And he said, you got background, you're a surveyor. I said, that's right, I've been surveying 4 years. He said, well, I'll tell you what I want you to do. He said, I'm going to sign you up for the Seabees, Navy Seabees. I said, well, that's good, that's construction work. He said, yep, sure is, we'll take care of you. Well, 6 months later, I was at Da Nang with the 1st Marine Division. And it's kind of like a guy who wants to go to Paris Island to lay on the beach. I mean, it was not a good deal. And my uncle ran for me for 20 years. And but in the middle of this whole thing on a Sunday morning, back when I got back to the States at our church, I heard one of our foreign missionaries speak. And I said, you know what? God's not calling me to be a civil engineer. He's calling me to do something else. I've spent a year defending what I have built with other men and watching people die. I want to spend the rest of my life helping them live. And I did. And this whole time I'm trying to encourage my dad. Dad, would you go to church with me? No, ain't going. I don't know how long it went, probably late 70s, somewhere in there. Daddy called me one night. He says, I want you to know I've been saved. I said, look, he'd mess with you. He's worse than I am. And he said, no, I have been saved. I said, Daddy, what does that mean? He said, that means I have given my life to Christ. He said, He died for my sin, and I cannot get myself to heaven no matter how good I am. I said, there you got it. That's good. See, Daddy's problem wasn't repenting from bad things. My daddy's problem was not understanding what it meant to be saved. He thought if your good stuff outweighed your bad stuff at the end of your life, then God would take you to heaven. See, Dad's idea of salvation was based on how good he could be, not what Christ had done on the cross. And I understand that because most Baptists think that way, to be honest. Methodists too. And about anybody else you think of in America, the idea is that somehow, the question is, how good do you have to be accepted? Because see, nobody can come up with the same answer. The Bible says that you have to be without sin. And there was only one like that, and that was Christ. See, I didn't know what my daddy was doing. I said, Daddy, what have you been doing? And I never did find out what he had been doing until Daddy got old, Mom had got old. Somebody called us from down there and said, you know what, I believe it's time to come get your Mom and Daddy. Y'all ever had that call? We went back home to Kingsport. My wife and I did, my kids. We sold that house. We sold everything in it. We packed what was left in a U-Haul and brought them down to Gainesville, Georgia. Daddy lived another year. But you know what we found in that house? I found about every book Billy Graham ever offered on TV. And what he had been doing is he would run me and Mama out of the room where the TV was when Billy Graham came on. He'd shut the door. He'd take his chair and he'd set it right in front of the TV with the sound turned down so we couldn't hear it. And he'd been listening to him for years. Because you know what? He was hungry. Because there was still the vacuum. Even though Daddy was a good man. And when he finally got honest with me and told me why he wasn't coming to church, he said, the people you got down there that you go to church with. He says, you know old so-and-so that teaches Sunday school? Yeah. But he steals tools off the job up at Ross Robinson we're building. Daddy was the superintendent. He says, you know old brother so-and-so is the deacon up there? Yeah. Well, we see him pick up his girlfriend sometimes after work. And he just went on. I had to stop him. I said, that's enough. Now, the problem with this whole thing was Daddy was right about everything he said. See, it wasn't the evil that was keeping Daddy out. It was his watching people who said they knew God. Church people. The only problem is Daddy didn't understand how to be saved. And that night, he began to realize, see, I said, well, Daddy, what happened? He said, well, all these years I've been comparing myself to other people. He said, you know what? I was better than them. I said, I don't doubt that, Daddy. And he was, straight as an arrow. If he said it, you could bank it. Whatever it was. Daddy used to go buy his clothes at the Salvation Army to make sure that Mama and I had everything we needed. That's the kind of man he was. Daddy sacrificed everything in his life for me and my mama. He was a good man. But he said that night I realized being good would not get me to heaven. I said, well, Daddy, what happened? He said, well, I'm supposed to not compare myself to other people. I'm supposed to compare myself to Jesus. And then he said the funniest thing, I come up a little short. Just like Daddy, just like Daddy. Just like Dad. And bless his heart, he said, I just want to know what I do next. It took 6 more months for Mom to get it. I asked her how come it took so long. She said, just want to make sure, just watching your Daddy, just want to make sure it's a real deal. Says, you never know about your daddy. They were married 50 years and 6 months when Daddy died. Now, I baptized my mama and my daddy. Now, if that won't flip your lid, that was something else that day. Because Daddy wouldn't be baptized till Mom got it, as he said. Here's what Daddy discovered. You see, you all are good men, good ladies. You're good people. We Baptists, we're good people. You've come from probably a lot of other churches. Some of you may not even go to church at all. I would hope there would be a lot of you here like that, because that's what this banquet's for. This is not supposed to be a Christian hootenanny. This is supposed to be an instrument by which Christ-filled people find other people. And what happened is my daddy realized that day when Jesus died on the cross, he took the punishment of the sin that my daddy deserved. He was the substitute for that. He went in his place. You know, and I understand that in my head, but in 1970, I got it. It was a morning, early morning. It was 12 miles out of Da Nang at a place called Hill 55. It's a Marine sniper base. Hathcock shot out of there, worked out of there. If you know anything, I don't explain that. Marine sniper. And we were building, the Seabees were building a road back into Da Nang for the villages in that area to be able to take their goods in to sell. It was a project to gain their favor. And me and 2 other guys were going to go out that morning. We were the surveying team. We took turns going out. The Marines would sweep the road for us before we went out. Then our turn came. You take turns. One group of guys would go because you never knew what was going to happen out there. Well, that morning, we were first. And so we got in our Jeep and we took off. The guys had their coffee. I had my big old cup of iced tea, kind of like Cy, you know, that's kind of what I did. And I just, you know, we were drinking on, just kind of joking. And all of a sudden, this guy pulls in front of us. It's the diesel truck. He's the fuel truck for all of our heavy equipment, the dozers, the pans, and stuff like that. He runs in front of us. His name was Coberlin. Ernest Coberlin, Swan Lake, New York. Only man who came out of Swan Lake, New York to Vietnam. E03, equipment operator, 3rd class, E4. So Coberlin took off out through there. He said, I got it. No worry. I got it, guys. Put a lot of noise. You know, we're sipping our coffee. He's drinking his. He takes off out there. You got to wait a good bit of distance between because you still don't know what's going to happen. And out about 100 yards, all of a sudden, there was a little girl on the side of the road who ignited a landmine that somebody had run in and put it in the dirt. And Coberlin's truck went up in flames. We went as fast as we could. We called for the medic, only we called him something else. He came. We pulled him out. We got him out of the truck. Me and my guys got him out of the truck, got him away. And the corpsman came and began to work on him. It was bad. He was messed up pretty bad. Medevac chopper came in, pulled him off, took him off. I remember going to see him the next few days at 95th Evac Hospital outside Da Nang. He died. It's different, but you know what happened? That morning, Ernest Coberlin took my place. See, I shouldn't be here today. And part of the problem I have with my life, I have a good life. I'm a blessed man. I got a beautiful wife, 46 years this fall, who loves me in spite of who I am. I got 3 godly kids who love Jesus. All 3 of them serving one way or the other the Lord. I'm just blessed. I've never had a need for anything. But the biggest pain I have is, why did I live? Will when I get before God, will I be able to say, did I do okay? See? Was my life worth enough for Coberland? See? And I struggle with that. I don't mind telling you, I struggle. That hurts. And I don't know, but here's what I know. I know somebody died in my place. But tonight, every single person in this room, in the world, in fact, Jesus Christ, God Himself, left heaven, and He took upon Himself that day what you and I deserved. The judgment of sin. Sin has to be judged. And if you're here tonight and you haven't figured that out, and maybe you like my dad. Maybe you're still trying to be good enough. Here's the deal. How good are you going to be? It's impossible. The only answer is to say, I accept what Jesus did when He took my place. You say, Ron, is it that easy? No, it ain't easy at all. Somebody died for you. That wasn't easy. Salvation's not free. Somebody paid for it. But it becomes a gift to you and I. And the only reason that we don't experience it is because we turned away the gift. I want you to pray with me. Would you bow your head? I don't know you. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. But if you're here tonight and you have been trying to get to heaven by being good, or your good outweighs the bad at the end, and that's your mindset. Now listen to me very carefully. And tonight, you want to transfer what you have been trying to do to what God has done for you. You want to make that transfer, because what that is that's you getting saved by what Christ has done, which is the only way to be saved. I just want you to quietly stand up with your head still bowed. Just stand up. That's all I'm asking you to do. That's right. Just stand up. You say, that's what I want to do. I want to transfer the trust tonight. A lot of you here, you say, Ron, I don't understand all of this. I got that. Here's what I want you to do. Here's the prayer you might pray. Lord Jesus, I know that I'm a sinner. I've been trying to get to heaven by being good. I realize I can't. Tonight, I accept what you did for me on the cross. I invite you to come into my heart. I'm repenting of my sins. I'm going to change my thinking about you and let you be the Lord of my life. And I'm asking you right now to do that by faith. Lord, I just pray you give these men and women ears to hear, and you give them the courage to act on what it is you're telling them tonight.